So you start making your payments and you're thinking, okay, I just got to make sure, I pay it off in 2 years, or I have to start paying interest. But that's not really the only thing you need to worry about. After 2 years, if you haven't paid it off, a lot of times they will go back and charge you interest on the entire balance from the day you purchased it.
Welcome to One With the Other Way, a podcast about your journey in finances. I'm your host, James. We have Peggy with us on our next installment of Reddit reactions from Personal Finance Reddit. This episode, we're going to just get right into it. So, first one we have is, if financial advisors are so good at investing, why do they work with customers? There are so many arrogant, confident financial advisors who make the investments they sell so good. It makes no sense to me that if their investments are so good, why don't they just use their own money to make their millions and then sit on a beach? I feel like they get rich off of selling the investment, but the investment itself isn't that great. Okay. So this person's passionate. They have a lot of feelings towards this. And I think in this episode, we're going to clear up some misconceptions regarding financial advisors. So Peggy, what are your instant reactions to this comment?
Well, my first reaction is I actually kind of understand this person. Before I started working with Wanda and working in the industry, I worked with financial advisors outside in the business world when I was working in corporate situations. And you get a misconception. I think that the public and the media, and they think that we're making a lot of money off of other people. And, the reality is that we do make a living, and we do invest also, right? So first of all, I'm not wealthy. I'm not a millionaire, right? I didn't come into this business that way. I'm hoping that, when I retire, but I'm just saying.
We all do.
Right. Exactly. I have goals too. But, we do invest our own money, and in our practice, we invest in a lot of the same things that we recommend. I mean, because, right, why would we recommend it if, why wouldn't we invest in it if we're recommending it for our clients? So we do have a lot of the same investments as our client base. And I just think that there's a lot to that. So we get paid. We're fiduciaries again, so we have to do what's best for our client. We have limitations on what we can charge. It's actually, there's regulations and mandates, and right. The thing to know is that we're people too, and we are just trying to make a living and trying to help people. A big part of our mission is that we want to help people. So that's why we help clients, right? We don't have a minimum. You don't have to come to us with $500,000, right? Or $1 million. Or some people, it's like $5 million. There are financial advisors that won't even talk to you if you don't have $250,000 to invest. We're not those people. And there's a lot of financial advisors out there in the world that are also not those people, right? We will talk to anybody that wants to do investing and start saving for their future. So I think you have to find the right one. I did, like I said, when I was in corporate America, I worked with them for my company and personally, and I wasn't impressed that much. I mean, I felt like I wasn't getting the attention that we give to our clients, but I didn't know that until I met Wanda. I didn't know that it was them and not the industry. So I would recommend this person reach out and keep looking until they find one that they can trust. Because what's the alternative? So let's talk about that for a second. Let's say I don't want to give my money to a financial advisor. I don't want to pay you. Okay, so then you're doing it yourself. All right, that's fine. But there's a lot of studies that have shown that people who do it themselves, have a lesser rate of return. But that's okay too, because it depends on what your goals are, right? If you're okay with that, fine. But you can also make mistakes, like we talked about in previous podcasts, that you have to know the rules and know what you're eligible to invest in and make sure you're following that and reporting everything correctly and putting on your taxes and paying the taxes on it. So there's all of those rules. It's so hard for me because I feel like you can do it yourself, pretty much anything, right? but I'm not going to go in and install electrical in my bathroom because it's going to be cheaper for me. Because in the end, it might actually cost me a lot more,
Or
when
it
I
could
screw
cost
it
you more
up or
time
when
if
I
you
mess it up, and time. So we talk about how, what is the most important thing in your investments, right? Rate of return, amount invested, and time. And we say time is the most important thing, right? Because that's what you really need to have time in the market. And I personally feel like my time, the time that I have to spend with family or doing the things that I love, is my most valuable asset. Because, what are we here for? I'm
yeah.
not here to just work my whole life.
Well, our mantra is, you want to have a good life now and in the future. But, sometimes if
Right.
you focus too much on the present, it's hard to focus on the future. And if you focus too much on the future, it's hard to focus on the present. So having
Exactly.
someone as an impartial third party that's putting your best interests first is what working with a financial advisor is.
Right. So I agree. I think that, that we do it because we're helping people.
I was looking at the comments of this one, and
Oh,
it
okay.
it was very interesting because some of them were actually saying kind of what we're saying, that a good financial advisor isn't about the returns that you're getting. A lot of it is the counseling you're getting because you're learning, you're being educated on your life and your finances, your whole picture, your whole journey. And so having a good financial advisor is someone that's going to be kind of a counselor on your side. The advice
Mhm.
is about your finances, but your finances are a tool in your life. And so ultimately, it's someone coming in and saying, hey, I notice all these things in your life, and here's where we can make it easier for you.
Right.
And so having a financial advisor could provide that benefit. And so I did see those comments, and I actually appreciated seeing that other side. I would usually see Reddit and I would think, oh, everyone's going to agree with this person and really just poo poo the advisor. But
Yeah.
I thought that was some good common sense that I saw. The second thing I
Yeah,
wanted
that's
to
good.
bring up, the second thing I wanted to bring up was I don't know who this person's been talking to, but also not everyone who claims to be a financial advisor is a financial advisor. You can use tools like FINRA's broker check to look up the people and see what they're saying, if they are who they say they are, if they have the licenses to sell the things that they have. You can use broker check, and I will link it in the description of this podcast, and you can see who you're talking to. You can also see
Right.
if there's any settlements or disputes, any claims against them. You can learn a lot about an advisor from that, and you can learn who isn't an advisor. Which what I'm seeing in this post, it almost reminds me of I see these financial gurus on like TikTok, for instance,
Mhm.
who are selling a course, but I feel like a good financial advisor isn't selling a course. Um,
No, and that's something that they should. So they talk about how they're, a financial advisor just making money off of the person and it doesn't matter, right? I want to go back to your rate of return question or comment also, but first let's just talk about that. So if you're selling a course, you're right. That person that's selling you a course, they already won, right? They're already ahead. They sold you something. So now what happens with you doesn't matter to them, right? They just
mm,
sold you something and you're on to the next thing. That is not a financial advisor, right? That is somebody who's selling you a course. And
yeah,
and you're right, there's a lot of that out there where you, oh, buy this book or buy this program that I've developed. Okay, but you can buy those things. But again, that person, unless they're going to provide you counseling or they're going to actually be a financial advisor and advise you, they have no vested interest in your success or not success. And
yeah.
maybe that's what's happened to this person. They went and oh, I'm going to get in this financial program, right? And it's just a course and it's all do it yourself. And they sold it to you for, I've seen them for some pretty expensive
Oh yeah.
prices. And then, it doesn't work out for you because you realize it's so much time, or, they're talking about investments of more than you can do. And, and so it's disheartening. And that is an issue.
Or you
And
get
I
stuck
can
behind
understand where
another
you would get,
paywall.
right. Yeah.
Like you
So
buy
then
the
there's that.
course and
And
they're
then
like, "Hey, get the extension of the course for extra money," and then you get to learn more about what you need to know.
well, not only that, but then I think that those programs make it seem like, well, if you didn't get success on it, then you did it wrong.
Oh
If you
yeah,
followed my course,
it gaslights you to think that it's your fault now.
then it's your fault. Yes, right. You weren't disciplined enough, or you didn't put in the work, or whatever, which
Yeah,
may not be true.
yeah,
And so there's that. So I can understand that kind of thing. But I want to go back to what you said about, how it's not about the rate of return for us and for everybody, right? And
yeah,
that's true. Rate of return is only one thing that we talk about. And rate of return is different for different types of investment and that kind of thing. But we really are about the long game. We don't do market timing. We personally, like in our practice, we're not sitting here every day watching the market and saying, oh, we have to get in today. Oh, sell today. We're not that, right? That is not what financial planning, the way that our practice works. We don't do that. So that's another thing to be aware of, that, I think a lot of people that do it themselves try
yeah,
to time the market.
yeah, and that's hard.
Yeah, and you should look at studies on that. You can go and look at what timing the market means and how successful that is, right? Isn't there some studies about if you put your money in on the best day of
Oh
the
yeah,
month, right? And if you put your money in on the worst day and continue and that kind of thing. There's a lot of
there's
information
a
out
lot of
there about
interesting
those kind of things.
studies. If I can, I'll find it and I'll put it in the description here.
Regular amounts of money, regular intervals.
Yep, dollar cost averaging, things that we discuss with our clients. Those are things to take away rather than trying to, be like a day trader, for instance. That's like
Right.
so different. Into the next one, I think is another funny question. What's so bad about 0% interest financing on expensive purchases? So I just bought some expensive camera gear off of Amazon, totaling about $7,000 after the body and lenses. I got some good deals on them, and I was prepared to buy them outright. What's the harm in using the 12-month 0% interest option that Amazon offers with their gear? I have 22 grand sitting in a brokerage account, 12 grand in checking, and can pay off the balance any minute I want to. Just curious, there has to be a catch, right?
Yeah, there's a catch. So
There's always a
there's always
catch.
good. But it sounds like this person is actually in a good position to actually use this, right?
Oh yeah.
So this goes to that whole thing about the difference. This makes me think of the ways that the middle class and the lower income people don't have the same advantages,
Yes.
right? That people who have a little bit of money do, right? That whole thing about money makes money and all of that. So it's about like the pair of boots. So,
Mm,
the boots story. I don't know if we talked about on the podcast
I haven't heard
before
about
or
it before.
not. You've never heard it before?
No.
Okay, so it's a story about, two workmen, and they work in, say, construction, and they need special boots to protect their feet. And so one guy just got the job. He doesn't have very much money. He's living paycheck to paycheck, has lots of bills. Anyway, he goes to the store, and there's like a $300 pair of boots.
Oh wow. Okay.
Okay, great. So he can't afford those boots, but those boots are going to last for like 3 years. Instead, he has to buy a pair of boots that costs like $60, but they're only going to last for 6 months,
Yeah.
right? So he's going to have to buy more money in boots. He's going to spend more because he can't afford that upfront cost, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's actually at a disadvantage, right? So, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. So the same kind of goes for this zero interest thing. So this person in the Reddit post, he has the money to pay for this equipment. The catch with the zero interest is usually, not always, but usually what the deal is you buy the stuff, you have 2 years to pay it off. And you can make payments or you can pay it all at one time, whatever. So you start making your payments and you're thinking, okay, I just got to make sure, I pay it off in 2 years, or I have to start paying interest. But that's not really the only thing you need to worry about. After 2 years, if you haven't paid it off, a lot of times they will go back and charge you interest on the entire balance from the day you purchased it. And so that's like a big thing that people don't know and they
Yeah.
don't realize and they don't read it. So if you can take advantage of it, it's another one of those things that if you have a little bit of money, you can save some money.
Yeah.
And it's sad to say that that's true, right? Take advantage of it because you're lucky. and you
Yeah,
can.
it's interesting. We talked in economics about the different advantages, disadvantages, and the different classes. And one thing that always stuck out to me that I thought was very interesting is you'll never see a pawn shop in a middle class neighborhood, but you'll see pawn shops in lower class neighborhoods because of this. Like it's sad, but it's like taking advantage of
Right,
people's situations. Whereas
right.
this sounds to me like it's upfront a marketing tactic to be like, hey, we want you don't have to pay any interest on something, but
Mhm.
they're they are pricing in probably the lack of financial literacy on what the consequences could be, and they're probably expecting, they're going to have some people that pay it off within the year and they're going to be fine,
Right.
but they are probably expecting an amount of people to not pay it off, and that's where they're going to make extra money on. I
Yeah,
think
and
that's
it's sad because you're right. It's like we can look at it like they're kind of preying on people that don't have that upfront cost. And they
yeah,
kind of are, right?
yeah,
But even think about the pawnbroker. Does the pawnbroker think that he's just preying on people, or does he think that he's actually helping them because they pawn their ring so they could buy groceries,
yeah,
right? It's the same thing with those paycheck advances, right?
yep.
Once you get in there, it's so difficult for you to get out. There are lots of other programs like that. I just came across a program like that recently where there's this program in the city that helps people to buy appliances for their rentals, but they force them to go to a specific store that isn't
Oh,
necessarily cheaper. And then that store doesn't always have, like, they give them this coupon for like a free refrigerator basically, but it's not really free. It's like up to say $800, and then you have to go to a specific store to get it, and then that store sells you a $1,200 refrigerator, which still
yeah,
is a good deal. But if you had that same amount of money and you could go to any store, you might find one that would
would
be
be,
free.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so
It's
it's just I think there's a lot of things like that, and I think that people need to be aware. But again, back to this particular case, that is the big catch on 0% interest, is that if you don't pay it off in the time frame, they often will charge you interest all the way back to the beginning. So make sure that you read the fine print and make sure that you pay it off.
now I will say something that we've said on previous podcasts. I think you yourself said this before, and we've talked about this in our office. But if it's cheaper to use someone else's money,
Mm-hmm.
that's the way you should go.
Yes, but you got to be careful when you just say a blanket like that, because we might be sitting in front of a client that just came out of a really bad situation with debt,
Yeah,
and
that's
it was
true.
really hard, and they went through a lot of struggles. And so for that particular person, it might not be the way to go,
Yeah,
right? So agreed. In generally speaking, if you could get more as a return and you could use somebody else's money and keep your money invested, then generally speaking, yes, that might be the way to go. But again, if you're a person that is not, it's just like credit cards, right? We talked about credit cards in
yeah.
another
If you're
podcast.
not a credit card
If you're the kind
person,
of person that is going to get those credit cards up to $10,000 and then be having to make minimum payments and barely getting by, then that's not for you.
yeah, that makes sense. Well,
So,
thank you for listening to today's podcast. If you want to speak to Peggy about what it is we do in financial planning for your own life, you can find us at financesforourlife.com. The schedule appointment button is the top right of the homepage. You can continue to listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And you can also follow us on social media. We are on Instagram and LinkedIn at Finances for Real Life. Thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advice offered through Finances for Real Life, a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision.